Good morning, good people. It's your man Cam. Just want to get on here this morning and talk to you guys about the issue with homelessness here in the Metro Atlanta area. I can't speak for anywhere else, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of other states are dealing with this issue just as much as we are here in the Metro Atlanta area. My thoughts on it is I have a few thoughts on it, I should say. And I want to start off by saying rest in peace to Cornelius, the gentleman that recently lost his life in downtown Atlanta because of the carelessness of the city workers down there, that he got run over, and a lot of people know the story. He passed away, in which I knew, or know I should say, his family. We went to school together, elementary, high school, even we chilled together. It was a good friend of mine, his brother, in which I met Cornelius once as well, back in the days, back in 2000. I met Cornelius. He was a cool dude. And like I said, rest in peace to him, and my condolences to Derek and his family as well behind this issue. But my thing is that we hear how the mayor of Atlanta and different people are trying to combat the homelessness issue that we have here in the Metro Atlanta area, in which I applaud them on the steps that they're taking and the things that they're trying to do. But we all know that in the grand scheme of things, it's not enough. It's not enough because we have to look at it from the perspective of government housing. At one point in time here in the Atlanta area, we had the largest government housing agency, so to speak. It was like literally you could be in one project and you could walk across the street and be in another project, or walk down the street and there's another project. So I say that because we had a large, I can't think of the word right now, but it was just a large population or a large amount of public housing here in the Metro Atlanta area, in which we all know that all of them, for the most part, have been torn down, and or they tore them down and they replaced them, but they replaced them with homes and apartments that the people that lived in the projects are unable to afford to live there. And if you wasn't, per se in good standings with, the public housing agency or the authority or what have you, Atlanta Housing Authority, or if you was wherever you was at, if you weren't in good standing with them, then you weren't allowed to stay in the new buildings that they put up once they tore the projects down. And so, like I said, I say that because we had a large population of those, man. They were everywhere. I mean, it was hardly any turn you made there wasn't some type of government housing. And that those apartments or the projects, they helped propel a lot of people. A lot of people were only paying $40, $20 a month to stay there, in which some people continued to stay there long term. But you had others that used the projects as a stepping stone. And we don't have that option anymore here in the Atlanta area. And so, you can put up affordable housing here, affordable housing there, but the amount of affordable housing that they're putting up does not amount to the amount of government housing that we once had in the city. And so a lot of these people that are homeless now, they lived in the projects. They grew up in the projects, and they depended on the government to stay housed, because and a lot of people say it's a good thing that they tear them down because they were crime ridden, or it was drugs everywhere, or it was just people mooching off of the government. But that's not the case. You have people staying in $2,000 a month apartments, and it's the same thing. You got crime, you got drugs. Even in these houses now, in the neighborhoods to where they were once considered good areas, you have this issue now. It's because of the poverty level starting to rise. And the poverty level is rising because these jobs aren't paying nearly enough money for people to be able to live and to live comfortably. So, for example, my first job I was making $5.15 an hour. That was almost 30 years ago. And do you know that to this day, the minimum wage here in Atlanta is still $5, or Georgia, I should say, is still $5.15. So the minimum wage hasn't changed in at least 30 years. But everything else has changed. The cost of gas, when I first started driving, was about 90 cents or so per gallon. Now we're paying $3 or more per gallon for gas, but yet the minimum wage has not increased. Even if we go off of what the government implemented as far as the federal minimum wage, that's only $7.25 per hour. So let's do the math. Literally, $7.25, you paying $3 a gallon for gas, that leaves you with $4. If, just using some type of math as far as what people are being paid and the cost that we have to put out in order to be able to move or maneuver. And it doesn't add up. Milk, when I first was going to the grocery store, was probably 79, 89 cents a gallon, $1 a gallon. Now milk is $2, $3 per gallon. We have to put these things in perspective to where the cost of living is going up mightily, but the amount that we're being paid is not increasing as quickly as everything else around us is going up. The cost of cars, when I was 15, 16 years old, you could get a mid-sized car like a Toyota Camry for brand new for $16,000, $17,000, $20,000 at the most. Now these cars are going for $30,000+ for a Toyota Camry. But yet the increase in our hourly pay has only gone up pennies, if that. And don't get me wrong, most jobs don't pay the $7.25, in which when I first started working at Enterprise Rental Car, I was making that $7.25 an hour. So you still do, and that's been years, so I don't want to, but let's say on average people are making $10 to $15 an hour. It's still not enough. In order to live and to be able to live comfortably, we need to make at least $40 an hour. And I know that sounds extreme, but that's the reality of the economy, that we have to have that type of money in order to be able to live comfortably, meaning pay all our bills and have money left over for a rainy day, meaning car expenses, house expenses, medical bills that are not foreseen. That's what that excess money is for. Because if we put it in perspective, $40 an hour, 40 hours a week is $1,600. Once you pay your taxes and insurance out of there, depending on where you work and what type of insurance you have, you are lucky to be left with $1,100 to $1,200 a week. So let's say it's the high end of $1,200 a week. So that leaves us at $4,800 a month. And out of that $4,800, to stay in a place that is safe and you paying rent, apartments cost $2,000 or more. So that's almost half of your money gone just in rent alone. Not to mention your car note, which may be $500, $600. Your car insurance may be another $200. Food, your utilities, all these things, they add up to the point where once it's all said and done, you're lucky to be left over with $600, $700, $800 to be able to put to the side just in case something unexpected happens. And once again, like I said, I know it sounds far-fetched, but that's the type of money that we need out here. And then you hear people say, well, you need to do better for yourself. You need to go and get a better job. So you telling me that when you, let's say, for example, you a lawyer, and when you go on your lunch break, you decide to go to Waffle House, or you decide to go to McDonald's, or you decide to go to Burger King at 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock or whatever time it is. And well, that's a summertime job where children got to go to school. Somebody has to man those positions while the summer or the teenagers cannot work those jobs. My point is that every job and position has a level of importance. Everybody can't be a lawyer. Everybody can't be a fireman. Everybody's not able to drive 18-wheelers. You see what my point is? And at the same time, we need people to stock the shelves of the grocery stores overnight. We need the people that picks up the trash every 2 or 3 days. We need these people. But yet, these people aren't being compensated for the jobs that they do. Yeah, $20 an hour sounds like good money, but in reality, that's nothing, especially if you have a family. $20 an hour is basically you needing government assistance. You having to get food stamps with $20 an hour if they're willing to give them to you. If you got children at home, like I say, or if you have a wife and you got all your other bills that you have to pay, and they think that $20 an hour is good money, it really isn't. But because we are so used to being paid $7 an hour or $10 an hour or $15 an hour, when we hear $20 plus an hour, we think that we're doing something. But once again, it's the greediness of the private sector, the greediness of these business owners. Let's take, for example, Georgia Power. Georgia Power decided to build a nuclear power plant. They didn't ask for anybody's opinions as far as the customers or anything like that. They decided to build that plant. And in them building the nuclear plant, they raised the cost of everyone's utilities because of that. As if it's the people's fault that you decide to build a nuclear power plant. You see what I'm saying? And as if it's not already difficult enough to pay all of your bills, you have big companies like Georgia Power deciding to go up on the cost of people's bills because they can do that in their minds. But if the people decide to part from Georgia Power is going to lose a lot more money than what they would have made because of raising the cost if people decide to leave Georgia Power altogether. But these companies, they don't think like that. They always thinking about how they can make more money for themselves and not thinking about the small people, the people that actually keep them in business. We are the people that keep them going. If it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be a darn Walmart. If it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be a Georgia Power. But they do what they want to when they want to because they feel like they can. And then a lot of these businesses use the excuse of, well, we had to raise the cost so that we can hire more people. That's nonsense. Because if you're making a lot of money, which most of these companies are, they have enough money to build more manufacturing facilities and things like that without raising the cost and charging us more money. And they could create more jobs and all these other things. But when they want to give the CEO 5-10% raise every year because they feel like he deserves it, but the people that pays for that, we don't deserve some type of compensation, meaning lower costs on things. We don't deserve that because you feel like you a boss and you deserve more money. Let's make sense of these things, y'all. These people are so greedy that the greed is literally eating this country and this economy alive. And I hate it. Like I said, well, you need to do better. You should have did this. You should have did that. Everybody that gets up in the morning and goes and works a job no matter how small that job may seem, is important to this economy. From you working at McDonald's to you being a brain surgeon, your position is important. And people want to downplay people's jobs and say that you are nothing, but be the same ones that want to go and get a two-piece combo meal or go get a family meal for their family. And if you moving too slow, or if they're not getting their food fast enough because don't nobody want to work there because they're not getting paid anything, they want to throw a fit. They want to act out. They want to call your names. They want to do all of these things, but are the same ones that want to say that that position that you have at that facility is low end and you need to do better for yourself. You see what I'm saying? People, we are such a double standard. It's ridiculous. You hear what I'm saying? It really is. To where people need to be awakened mentally and see everything around them. I had this guy yesterday, for example, in which we're all guilty of it. So I'm not, really bad mouthing the guy, but I'm driving. He tailgating me. I see him flash his lights. He all in my rear view. I can see him throwing his hands up. He even slapped himself a couple of times. Like, I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with this cat? So it gets to a point where there's a turning lane. So he decides to go around, and I knew we was headed into traffic. So he decides to go around me all fast and get in front of me. As soon as he got in front of me, he had to come to a stop. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching him because people are crazy nowadays, especially I'm looking in my rearview mirror and he slapped himself. So I see him throw his hands up and he whatever. So I threw my hands up. You get what I'm saying? And so I see him let his window down. So I took my seatbelt off and let my window down as well because I don't know what his plans are. And so he yells out the window, and he from another country. You can hear the accent. You know how to drive. I said, man, you can't drive. You decide to do all of that just to get in front of me, and you ain't even going nowhere because there's traffic ahead of you. And I think he came to the realization that I made sense, and so he let his window back up. But people are we are so in a hurry to go nowhere. We are so quick to judge people and things of that nature to the point where we don't look in the mirror and judge ourselves. It's always about what somebody else has done or what somebody else is doing. Well, what are you doing? I have to ask myself that all the time. What am I doing? To the point where I wasn't really mad at this guy because, like I said, we're all guilty of being in a hurry. I've been there. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm not just going to let you disrespect me or think you're going to walk over me or something like that. So that's why I responded to him, which I probably shouldn't have because he could have had a gun. You know what I'm saying? Because people don't fight anymore. People want to shoot. That's the first thing coming to mind. They want to grab their gun and shoot. Let's fight it out. And we can, and then we can shake hands and we can part ways. But my point is that we have to be more rational when thinking. We do all of these unnecessary things thinking that we're getting somewhere faster and we truly aren't. We're going to get there at the same time, or you may make it there just a couple of minutes ahead of me. You see what I'm saying? But back to my initial reason for being on here is that they're not going to be able to combat homelessness unless they decide to start building government housing again. That's going to be one of the biggest solutions to homelessness is creating government housing again. I know they don't want to do it, but that's what you're going to have to do. Because like I said, you got people that are willing to work, but working at McDonald's, working at even as being a garbage collector doesn't truly pay enough for people to stay in a nice area and be able to pay all of their bills. They don't. Let's say if you're making $25 an hour. Okay, $25 an hour, 40 hours a week equates to about $900 a week. With that $900 a week, once again, you got taxes, and let's say you don't have health insurance, but you got taxes. Your taxes going to come out of that $900. Well, if you're lucky, you're going to be left with $700 bucks. To stay in a nice apartment, you got to pay $2,000. So 3 checks are already gone, and that leaves you with $800 for the whole month. And you got to feed yourself. You got to pay your utilities in your apartment. You got to, because you got to have transportation, whether it's a MARTA card or whether you Ubering or whatever it is, you got to pay for that. To when by the end of the month, you have nothing. But you work hard every day that they got you scheduled, and you can barely make it. They're going to have to bring government housing back. To the point where somebody that's making $900 a week can most definitely afford a couple of $100 a month and still be able to maintain everything else that they need to take care of off of that money that they've made. Because see, like I said, it's affordable housing stuff. Personally, I haven't dug into it, but I'm pretty sure that this affordable housing is a lot more expensive than what government housing was. They call it affordable housing, but you're probably still paying $500-$600 a month, which is affordable when you compare it to $1,000 or $2,000 a month. Yeah, it's affordable from that perspective, but at the same time, it still isn't enough for the people, y'all. It isn't. You got these CEOs and even the mayor himself, and I'm not trying to knock the guy, but these people making $200,000 plus a year. $200,000, and I'm not saying that that's a lot of money, because I was in the car business, y'all. I was a service advisor. My first year, I made about $40,000. But as I got better at it, it started to increase to the point where my best year, I made over $120,000 before taxes being a service advisor. But we have to understand that working in certain areas or certain fields, yeah, you may make money, but it comes with a lot of shiesty stuff, a lot of lies and taking advantage of people. And that's what that was. To the point where we had to lie to people about, well, your car, or well, your car didn't have this problem with, and now it's got this problem. And then they would raise the cost on things to where literally people are paying 70+% markup. Sometimes even 100+% markup on parts and labor, so that these companies can pay all the employees and pay their overhead costs. People are literally being taken advantage of. And that's one of the main reasons why I got out of the car business. I gave up $100,000+ job, at least $80,000 a year. I gave all that up to work $40,000, $50,000 jobs so that I could have my sanity, so that I can know that I'm not taking advantage of people who have to work hard as well in order to be able to pay for their cars to be fixed. These people are put in situations to where it's almost as if they don't have a choice but to pay these things. And then they get in debt with their credit cards, or the car company offers some type of credit that they have, and the people go for that. And these people are in debt more than what they should be, because they are truly being overcharged for these services. I had to get out of it, y'all. It weighed on me. And I'm just not that type of person to where I want to see people being taken advantage of just for me to make $100,000. I'd rather make half of that and know that people are being treated fairly. And so that was the choice that I made. But then people say, well, you stupid. But those are the people without a consciousness. I have a conscience. to where I care about other people and other people's situations. There were plenty of times when I was in that field that I paid money out of my own pocket to help people with repairs on their cars or with services that they had on their cars, because I knew the situation that they were in, and I just happened to be in a little bit better of a situation. But it started getting to the point where I was living paycheck to paycheck even in that industry, because we all hear the stories about, well, the more money you make, the more money you spend. And it's true. You start buying stuff, and before you know it, you living paycheck to paycheck, even when you're making $100,000 plus a year. But it does come back to us having to be smart with our money as well, to the point where certain things we may not need, or, but at the same time, a lot of stuff we do need. My wife needed a car, her car breaking down. We got 2 children that need to get to and fro from school and medical visits and all these other things. And I'm working 12 plus hours a day. So I wasn't able to do it. You see what I'm saying? So, like I say, man, this whole economy thing, when we truly put it into perspective, it is a hard mountain to climb. You hear what I'm saying? It's hard to conquer this terrible monster that has been created in this society, because it was always, well, it's my business, I can do what I want to with it. So if I want to raise the cost of something, knowing that people need it, for example, gas, and don't get me wrong, things are going to go up slowly, but they don't have to. But if things are going to slowly increase, our money needs to increase at the same rate that the cost of things are increasing at. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing the complete opposite. Like I say, if these companies decide to pay the minimum amount that they're required to, which is $7.25 an hour, literally these people are making the same money that I made when I was 15 years old, y'all. And that's been almost 30 years ago. So you telling me that this state and other states cannot see the fact that everything around us is increasing and not do anything about it? In which I get it, Georgia's a work the right state or whatever they call it, to the point where a lot of these companies are private and they make their own decisions on what they want to pay and how they want to pay it. But that needs to change, like I say. To where I get it, places like New York and Vermont, they raise their minimum wage to $15, $20 an hour, but the cost of living is double, triple what it is here in Georgia. So that really doesn't matter that they raised it to $15, $20 an hour. They still are in the same position that we're in down here in the South. And like I said, with Georgia getting all these studios and everybody wanting to move to Atlanta for whatever reason, the cost of living has increased, and it has increased dramatically here in Atlanta. Like I said, I've told the story. I grew up pretty much west of DeKalb. We grew up on the borderline or the county line of Atlanta in DeKalb County, Belvedere Park, Georgia. And I say this because my mother sold her house for about $50,000, y'all. And this was about 2000, the year 2000. That same house sold the last time for almost $300,000-$400,000. Let's make sense of that, y'all. To where the cost of things are ridiculous. They tore down the apartment, Shoal Creek Apartments over there, and turned and built these townhouses and condos, whatever you want to call them, $300,000-$400,000 to buy them. To where the apartments that was over there was for low income families to be able to make it. And you got $300,000-$400,000 townhomes in replacement of the apartments. You see what I'm saying, y'all? They putting it to the point where if you want, once again, you either gonna have it or you're not. And that's what they want out of this society. But they don't realize by creating that type of society, the people that do have are going to be living in gated communities with dogs and security, and the gates are going to have to be 20 feet high because the people on the outside are going to be hungry and trying to get in. Do you hear what I'm saying? And which I hadn't, when I moved to Stone Mountain was my first time kind of seeing that. You understand? Well, literally in Stone Mountain, you will have apartments and all this other stuff. And then on the other side of apartments, you got $1 million homes. To where it's showing me what the future is going to look like. To where you got the people who are struggling on one side and the people with all the money on the other side, but they going to literally have to have drones and people with guns guarding their estates. To where their living is going to be, it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be miserable for them because they're going to be stuck behind gates. You understand? At least where we come from, if you was in poverty, everybody around you was living the same. But here in Stone Mountain, like I said, was the first time I literally was driving, and you in the lower income areas, and you cross over the bridge or something, and you over there with $1 million houses. I'm like, what kind of mess is this? But it's God showing me what the future is going to look like for everybody, y'all. And they're going to have to prepare for it. So they either going to have to correct it now, or they're going to have to be prepared for a war that they really don't want. You know, they can sit there with all their money. They can laugh and joke and smile and all these other things while drinking their expensive wine in their big houses. But when it's all said and done, they're going to be just as miserable as the people that have to sleep out in the cold, or the people that work hard to keep them fed. But these same people can only afford 3 or 4 days a week to stay in some type of motel because of the money that they make. And then the other few days, they have to sleep out on the streets until they get their next paycheck. And they're going to realize how hard these people have it. Not saying that the people with a lot of money didn't come from the hood, because you got some that did, so they know what the struggle is. But the ones that do, for example, Mr. T.I. and his wife Tiny, at least they trying to do something with their money. They decided to build affordable housing for their communities because they know what it is to struggle. Whether or not it's affordable, I don't know. But I hear what they're trying to do, and I applaud them for that. Because you don't have many people that have the funds that they have that are willing to invest in the community. Most of these people want to continue to take from the ones that don't have much. But like I said, y'all, this is going to be a hard mountain to climb. And like I said, the start of it is bringing back the projects, y'all, bringing back government housing to where certain states, they still have it. But because the Olympics came here and they think that gentrification is a good thing, they tore down literally all of the projects here in Atlanta, or the metro Atlanta area, because they all weren't necessarily in Atlanta. You had them in DeKalb County as well. But they tore them all down in order to build housing to where people cannot afford to live in them. I think downtown Decatur may be one of the few places that actually have enough affordable housing, in a sense, to help the ones that were staying in the projects, you get what I'm saying, to have a roof over their head. I think downtown Decatur is one of the few that still have that. But y'all, man, it's time to wake up. It truly is, because we are being blinded by false realities. You get what I'm saying? A lot of lies are being told to the community, to where, because we hear it so much, we're starting to believe the lies and not wanting to believe or listen to the truth anymore. But y'all take it easy out there, and it's your man Cam. I love y'all.